The small control room of Outpost Horizon was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitoring systems. Commander Ellis rubbed his tired eyes as he finished his third cup of coffee. Night shifts at the edge of human space were usually uneventful, scanning the darkness, logging routine reports, and fighting boredom. This remote colony, established only 15 years ago, was considered a backwater assignment by most military personnel. Another quiet night, muttered tech specialist Reed, spinning lazily in her chair. "Quiet is good," Ellis replied. "Quiet means we're all still alive." The colony housed just over 7,000 people, mostly researchers, miners, and their families. Their defense force was minimal: 3 small patrol ships and a skeleton crew of 30 officers. They were too far from Earth to expect quick reinforcements if anything went wrong. A sudden high-pitched tone cut through the silence. Reed stopped spinning and turned to her console. "Sir, we're picking up something unusual," she said, her fingers moving quickly across the holographic interface. "It's not on any standard frequency." Ellis moved behind her, watching as patterns scrolled across the screen. "Is it one of ours?" "Negative. The signature doesn't match any human communications protocol." Reed's voice took on an edge of excitement. I think it's alien." Ellis felt a chill run down his spine. In the 70 years since humans had ventured beyond their solar system, they had encountered only 2 other intelligent species. Both encounters had been carefully managed first contacts, preceded by years of observation and preparation. "Put it through the translator," he ordered. The strange signal filled the room, rising and falling tones that seemed to follow a pattern but made no sense to human ears. The computer analyzed it, trying to find meaning in the alien sounds. "There's something mathematical about it," Reed said, leaning forward. "Look at these intervals." Ellis saw it too. Prime numbers, Fibonacci sequences, universal constants. This wasn't random noise. It was deliberately constructed to be recognized by any technologically advanced species. "It's repeating," Reed said. "Same pattern, over and over." The translation computer flashed a notification. It had found something. "Help. Danger. Please. Help." The words appeared on the screen, simple and chilling. "It's a distress call," Ellis whispered. Reed nodded, her expression serious. "From someone who doesn't know our language but knows we might understand mathematics." Ellis stared at the repeating message, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. "Where is it coming from?" Reed checked the coordinates. "Sector 47B, about 3 light-years from here. There's nothing in our records about any settlements there." Ellis paced the small control room, considering their options. Outpost Horizon had no mandate to investigate unknown signals. Protocol dictated they should report it to Earth Command and wait for instructions. But a distress call couldn't wait for bureaucracy. "What resources do we have available?" he asked. "Not much, sir. The Pathfinder is docked for repairs. The Sentinel is on patrol near the mining operation. The Lookout could be ready in about 6 hours." Ellis shook his head. "Not good enough. Someone out there needs help now." He made his decision. Send the full signal data to Earth Command. Priority 1. Make it clear this is a verified distress call from an unknown species. "They'll take days to respond, sir," Reed pointed out. "I know, but they have resources we don't. Battleships, proper medical facilities, diplomats." Ellis stared at the repeating message on the screen. "We're just an outpost. Earth needs to handle this." Reed nodded and began preparing the transmission. As she worked, Ellis didn't notice the tiny probe hovering just outside the outpost's sensor range. The Vex observation device recorded everything, transmitting data back to its masters. In their command ship, Vex war leader Korax watched the human outpost with cold calculation. The primitive distress signal from the pathetic Lumi had worked perfectly as bait. These humans were reacting exactly as predicted, with foolish concern. "They are forwarding the signal to their homeworld," his intelligence officer reported. Corax's mouthparts clicked in satisfaction. Excellent. Now we will see how the Deathworlders respond. If they ignore it, we'd proceed with the Lumi harvest. If they send help, his eyes gleamed, we will assess their military capabilities before we add them to our conquest list. The Vex had conquered 17 species across this sector of the galaxy. Each victory had been carefully planned, each target thoroughly studied. Humans were relatively new to space, their territories limited, their technology unimpressive. They would pose no significant challenge to the Dominion. Back on Outpost Horizon, Commander Ellis sent a personal message attached to the official report. To Admiral Reeves, Earth Command. Sir, I believe this is genuine. Someone out there is asking for our help. I know protocol, but some things transcend procedure. If we want to call ourselves explorers and not just colonizers, we need to answer this call. Ellis out. He didn't know that his message would set in motion events that would change the galaxy forever. High Admiral Reeves stood at the window of her office in Earth Command, staring at the blue-green planet below. After 30 years of military service, she had developed an instinct for trouble. The message from Commander Ellis had triggered that instinct immediately. Play it again, she ordered. Her AI assistant projected the alien distress signal into the room. The mathematical patterns floated in the air, spinning slowly. Help. Danger. Please. Help. Simple words. Universal meaning. Analysis confirms it's not human in origin, said General Park, who sat across from her desk. The signal structure suggests a species we haven't encountered before. Reeves nodded. And what do you think we should do about it? Park frowned. Protocol is clear. We observe, we document, we analyze. We don't rush headlong into unknown situations. Someone is asking for help, Reeves said simply. Someone, or something, is sending a signal that our computers interpret as a request for help, Park corrected. It could be a trap. It could be a misunderstanding. It could be a natural phenomenon that mimics communication. Reeves turned away from the window. I've called an emergency meeting of the United Earth Council. We'll present what we know and make a decision. The Council will never approve a military response based on 4 words, Park warned. Reeves smiled thinly. Then I'll have to be persuasive. The council chamber was filled with the 24 representatives of Earth's governing body. Reeves stood at the center, the alien message playing softly behind her. Distinguished councilors, we face a historic decision, she began. For the first time, we have received what appears to be a distress call from an unknown intelligent species. Councilor Wilson spoke first. Admiral, while this is certainly interesting, why does it require emergency action? We should study this signal for months before considering any response. Murmurs of agreement filled the room. If your house was on fire, Reeves asked, would you want the fire department to study your call for months? That's hardly the same, Wilson began. Isn't it? Reeves interrupted. The message repeats the word danger. It says please. Whatever sent this needs help now, not after we've had committee meetings and written reports. Councilor Lee leaned forward. What exactly are you proposing, Admiral? I'm requesting authorization to deploy the 7th Fleet. It's currently the closest substantial force to the signal's origin. The room erupted in protest. The 7th Fleet has 15 warships, exclaimed Councilor Diaz. That's not a rescue mission. That's an invasion force. Reeves waited for the noise to die down. The 7th Fleet also has the best medical ships, the most advanced sensors, and personnel trained in first contact procedures. We don't know what we're walking into. It could be a natural disaster. It could be an internal conflict. Or it could be that someone is attacking them. And if it is an attack, asked Councilor Cheng quietly, what then? Are we prepared to fight someone else's war? Reeves looked around the room. 200 years ago, our ancestors nearly destroyed themselves fighting each other. We vowed never again. We unified our planet and looked to the stars. We said we would be better. This is our chance to prove it. She paused, letting her words sink in. I'm not asking for permission to start a war. I'm asking for permission to answer a call for help. If we turn our backs on this, what does that say about humanity? The council chamber fell silent. Reeves knew she had them thinking. Councillor Lee spoke again. We will vote. Those in favor of deploying the 7th Fleet as a humanitarian mission, raise your hands. One by one, hands went up. 16 votes. A majority. The motion passes, Lee announced. Admiral Reeves, you have your authorization. Far away, aboard the Vex command ship, War Leader Corax received the news with surprise. They are sending warships, he asked, his facial spines twitching in confusion. Yes, War Leader, replied the intelligence officer. 15 vessels. Much more than we expected. Corax contemplated this development. Interesting. These humans are more aggressive than our studies suggested, or perhaps more foolish. Should we withdraw our forces from the Lumi system? The intelligence officer asked. No, Corax decided. This is an opportunity to assess human military capabilities. We will proceed as planned with the Lumi harvest. If the humans interfere, we will deal with them. He clicked his battle mandibles together. Position our scout ships to observe their arrival. I want to know their weapons, their tactics, their weaknesses. The intelligence officer bowed. It will be done, War Leader. Corax turned to the holographic display, showing the approaching human fleet. Let us see what these Deathworlders are capable of. Back on Earth, Admiral Reeves sent a message to Commander Ellis at Outpost Horizon. We heard the call. The 7th Fleet is on its way. Humanity is about to make new friends, or new enemies. Either way, we won't stand by and do nothing. Reeves out. The 7th Fleet exited jump space in perfect formation. 15 warships, led by the flagship Valiant, emerged near the source of the distress signal. Captain Thorne stood on the bridge, hands clasped behind his back, as the fleet's sensors scanned the system. What do we have? He asked his science officer. Sir, we're detecting a habitable planet, 3rd from the star. Signs of technology, but nothing advanced. No orbital defenses, no major space stations. The officer paused. And there are ships in orbit, not ours. The main screen showed a dozen sleek, predatory-looking vessels surrounding the planet. They were dark, with sharp angles and weapon ports clearly visible along their hulls. Are they attacking? Thorne asked. Difficult to tell, sir, but we're receiving more distress signals from the surface. Thorne made his decision. Move us between those ships and the planet. Open all communication channels. Let's announce ourselves before things get complicated. The human fleet shifted, taking up defensive positions between the unknown ships and the planet below. This is Captain Thorne of the United Earth Fleet vessel Valiant. We are responding to a distress call from this system. We come with peaceful intentions. Please identify yourselves. For a long moment, there was silence. Then the communications officer turned to Thorne. Sir, we're receiving 2 signals, one from the ships in orbit and another from the planet's surface. Put them both through, Thorne ordered. The screen split. On one side appeared a tall, insect-like alien with gleaming black eyes and clicking mandibles. On the other was a slender, blue-skinned being with large, luminous eyes and delicate features. The insect-like alien spoke first. Its translator converted its clicks and chirps into human language. I am War Leader Corax of the Vex Dominion. You are interfering in legitimate harvest operations. Withdraw immediately. The blue alien seemed desperate. Please help us. I am Arwen, leader of the Lumi people. The Vex are killing us. They take our people for food. Thorne's face hardened. War Leader Corax, did you say harvest? Are you claiming these people as a food source? Corax's mandibles clicked rapidly. The strong consume the weak. This is the natural order. The Lumi are prey species. This is not your concern, human. It became our concern when they asked for help. Thorne replied evenly. We request that you withdraw your forces and leave this system. The Vex war leader made a sound that might have been laughter. You do not give orders to the Vex Dominion. We have conquered 17 worlds. Your small fleet does not concern us. The communication cut off abruptly. They're charging weapons, sir, reported the tactical officer. Thorn nodded grimly. Raise shields. Alert all ships. Try to maintain position between them and the planet. He turned to the screen where Arwen still watched, eyes wide with fear and hope. We'll do what we can to protect your people, Thorn promised. Can you tell me more about the Vex? Arwen nodded. They came 6 months ago. At first, they said they wanted to trade. Then they began taking our people. They've done this to many worlds. They believe compassion is weakness. They only respect strength. Sir, interrupted the tactical officer, the Vex ships are moving to surround us. They're trying to cut us off from the planet. Thorn kept his voice calm. Arwen, we need to focus on defending your world now. Is there somewhere safe your people can go? We have underground shelters, Arwen replied. But the Vex have ground forces too. A brilliant flash of light cut off Arwen's words as the first Vex ship fired. Return fire, Thorn ordered. Protect the planet at all costs. The space around them erupted in energy beams and explosions as the human fleet engaged the Vex forces. The Valiant shuddered as multiple hits struck its shields. Shields at 80%, sir, reported the tactical officer. Their weapons are powerful, but our defenses are holding better than they expected. Thorn watched the tactical display as the battle unfolded. The Vex had superior numbers when counting their ground forces, but the human ships were more resilient than they had anticipated. They're targeting our smallest vessels first, Thorn noted, trying to pick us off one by one. A human corvette exploded under concentrated Vex fire. Thorn's jaw tightened. Focus fire on their lead vessel. Let's show them humans don't go down easily. 3 human cruisers coordinated their attack, their combined firepower punching through the Vex flagship's defenses. It exploded in a spectacular burst of flame and debris. For a moment, the Vex attack faltered. Sir, we're receiving a communication from the Vex secondary command ship, said the communications officer. The insectoid face that appeared on screen wasn't Korax, but another Vex commander. You fight well for prey, the Vex said. We will withdraw temporarily to assess this unexpected resistance. The remaining Vex ships began pulling back, retreating to the edge of the system. They're not leaving entirely, warned the tactical officer. Just regrouping. Thorn nodded. Get me Admiral Reeves. Tell her we've made first contact with 2 species, 1 friend, 1 definitely not. And tell her we're going to need reinforcements. On his damaged command ship, the new Vex leader watched the human fleet with new respect and growing concern. These Deathworlders are stronger than we calculated, he told his officers. Alert the High Command. We may have found a worthy opponent at last. Admiral Reeves stood silently as the holographic display showed the damage to the 7th Fleet. 3 ships destroyed, 5 heavily damaged, over 200 crew members dead. The cost of their first battle with the Vex had been high, but they had held the line. The Lumi homeworld remained protected, for now. The Vex have pulled back to the edge of the system, reported Captain Thorn via the quantum link. His image flickered slightly. They're regrouping, not retreating. We expect another attack within days. How are our ships holding up? Asked Reeves. Better than the Vex expected, Thorn replied with a grim smile. That's the interesting part. During the battle, we intercepted some of their communications. They kept referring to us as Deathworlders and seemed shocked by our durability. Reeves raised an eyebrow. Deathworlders. I asked Arwen about it, Thorn explained. The Lumi classify planets based on their environments. Earth would be considered a Deathworld high gravity, extreme temperature variations, dangerous wildlife, natural disasters, and the Lumi world, a paradise by comparison. 1/3 Earth gravity, mild climate, limited predators, Thorn paused. "Admiral, I think the Vex underestimated us because they assumed we'd be physically similar to the Lumi and other species they've conquered." Reeves considered this. What about the Vex themselves? Where are they from? "A mid-range gravity world, according to Arwen. They're stronger than the Lumi, but nowhere near as strong as humans. Plus, our ships are built to withstand Earth's more extreme conditions." "So they expected easy prey and found wolves instead," Reeves said thoughtfully. She turned to her staff. "That's our advantage. The Vex don't understand what they're dealing with yet." General Park stepped forward. "Admiral, the 7th Fleet can't hold out against another major attack. We should order a withdrawal while we can." "No," Reeves said firmly. "If we leave, the Lumi will be slaughtered, and we'll be telling the Vex the humans can be driven off." "What do you suggest then?" Park asked. Reeves touched the holographic display, zooming out to show Earth and the surrounding systems. "I'm requesting full mobilization of the war fleet." The room fell silent. The war fleet hadn't been fully deployed since the unification of Earth 50 years ago. It represented the combined military might of humanity. Over 500 warships, from small corvettes to massive dreadnoughts. "The Council will never approve that," Park objected. "Not for an alien race we just met." "This isn't just about the Lumi anymore," Reeves countered. "The Vex have conquered 17 worlds. How long before they set their sights on human colonies? This isn't a rescue mission now. It's preventing a future invasion." She turned back to Thorn's hologram. "Captain, how long can you hold out?" "With our current forces, maybe a week. The Vex outgun us, but they're being cautious now. They're studying us, adapting their tactics." "1 week," Reeves repeated. "I'll have reinforcements to you within 3 days. Hold the line, Captain." After the communication ended, Reeves called an emergency session of the United Earth Council. This time, she didn't need to convince them. The footage of the Vex attack, combined with Arwen's testimony about the 17 conquered worlds, was enough. The vote was unanimous. The war fleet would deploy. On the Lumi homeworld, Captain Thorn stood with Arwen on a hillside overlooking their capital city. The elegant spires and arching bridges reflected the Lumi's peaceful nature. In the distance, human shuttles delivered medical supplies and defense equipment. "Your people risked everything for strangers," Arwen said softly. "We can never repay this debt." Thorn shook his head. "There's no debt. This is what humans do. We help when we can." "The Vex do not understand this concept," Arwen replied. "They see compassion as weakness." "Then they've made a serious mistake," Thorn said. His communication device beeped. A message from his first officer aboard the Valiant. "Sir, long-range sensors are detecting Vex movement. They appear to be preparing for another attack." "Acknowledged. I'm heading back up." Thorn turned to Arwen. "Get your people to the shelters. This isn't over yet." As Thorn's shuttle lifted off, the Vex command ship moved into attack position at the edge of the system. The new war leader, Drek, studied the human fleet with cold calculation. "Their ships are damaged. Their numbers reduced. Now is the time to crush them," he told his officers. But war leader objected, his second in command. "These Deathworlders are stronger than we anticipated. That is why we attack now, before they can bring reinforcements." Drek insisted. "Begin the assault." What Drek didn't know was that humanity's response was already in motion. Throughout Earth-controlled space, warships were jumping toward the Lumi system. The call for help had been answered, and the full might of the Deathworlder war fleet was coming. War leader Drek watched with mounting disbelief as his tactical display filled with new contacts. Jump points were opening all around the Lumi system, dozens of them, then hundreds. "What is happening?" he demanded. His sensor officer's voice shook. "War leader, we are detecting massive ship movements. They appear to be human vessels." The first wave appeared, 30 heavy cruisers escorting a massive dreadnought. Then came another wave, 50 destroyers and support ships, and still More jump points opened. Impossible, Drek whispered. No species maintains a fleet this size in peacetime. On the bridge of the human dreadnought Prometheus, Admiral Reeves surveyed the tactical display with grim satisfaction. The war fleet was arriving precisely on schedule. Status report, she ordered. 537 ships have arrived and are taking formation, her executive officer replied. The remaining vessels will be here within the hour. Reeves nodded. Open a channel to the Vex command ship. When Drek's insectoid face appeared on the screen, Reeves didn't wait for him to speak. This is High Admiral Reeves of the United Earth War Fleet. Your forces have attacked human ships and threatened a species under our protection. You will withdraw from this system immediately or face the consequences. Drek's mandibles clicked rapidly. This is not possible. Our intelligence indicated your species was limited to a few dozen warships. Your intelligence was wrong, Reeves replied simply. You have 1 hour to retreat beyond the system boundary. She cut the transmission and turned to her communications officer. Get me Captain Thorne. Thorne's image appeared, his expression changing from tension to astonishment as he took in the bridge of the Prometheus. Admiral, when you said reinforcements, I was expecting maybe 20 ships. The situation has escalated, Captain, Reeves said. The Council recognized the Vex as a threat to all human worlds. We're not just defending the Lumi anymore. We're sending a message. Down on the Lumi homeworld, Arwen stood with her council members at the main observatory. The screens showed the space above their planet filling with human ships. Hundreds of them. From small, agile fighters to massive warships that dwarfed anything the Lumi had ever built. By the ancient stars, whispered an elder council member, they have sent their entire fleet for us. Arwen watched as more ships arrived. They are not like the Vex. They fight to protect, not to conquer. But such military power, said another council member. Should we fear them too? Arwen shook her head. If they wanted to conquer us, would they fight to save us first? No, the humans are something the galaxy has not seen before, a strong species with compassion. On the Vex command ship, Drek faced a crisis. His fleet of 30 vessels had seemed overwhelming against the damaged human 7th Fleet. Now they were hopelessly outnumbered. We cannot win this battle, his second-in-command stated the obvious. No, Drek agreed, but retreat means failure. In Vex culture, failure often meant death for the commander. He made his decision. Send a message to High Command. We require immediate reinforcements, all available ships. Even the Homeland Defense Fleet, asked his officer in shock. Everything, Drek hissed. These Deathworlders must be contained now, before they become unstoppable. As the message was sent, Drek gave the order to withdraw beyond the system boundary. He would obey the human admiral's demand. For now. But the Vex Dominion would not accept this humiliation. On the Prometheus, Admiral Reeves watched the Vex ships retreat with narrow eyes. They're pulling back, reported the tactical officer. But not giving up, Reeves said. This isn't over. She turned to her staff. I want our best intelligence teams working with the Lumi. Find out everything about Vex territory, their military capabilities, their weaknesses. What are your orders for the fleet, Admiral? Asked her executive officer. Establish a defensive perimeter around the Lumi system. Begin constructing orbital defense platforms. And dispatch scout ships to neighboring systems. I want to know if there are other species being threatened by the Vex. Captain Thorne's voice came through again. Admiral, Arwen has informed me that there are at least 3 other worlds under Vex attack within range of our fleet. Reeves nodded. Then we have work to do, Captain. She looked out at the assembled might of humanity's war fleet, ships built in the orbit of Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies, crews drawn from every corner of human space. For the first time, the full strength of humanity was on display to the galaxy. In the Vex High Command, the Supreme War Leader received Drek's message with cold fury. These humans dare to challenge the Dominion, he snarled. They will learn what happens to those who oppose us. He turned to his generals. Mobilize the Grand Armée. We will crush these Deathworlders and add their worlds to our harvest. What the Vex couldn't understand was that they had awakened something unprecedented, an apex predator species with both the strength to fight and the compassion to protect others. The galaxy would never be the same. Captain Thorne stood in the great meeting hall on the Lumi homeworld. Around the circular table sat representatives from 7 different alien species. Each had suffered under Vex aggression. Each had lost worlds, resources, and countless lives to the Dominion's expansion. Admiral Reeves sat beside him, listening as Arwen introduced the delegates. The Coral lost their outer colonies 3 cycles ago, Arwen explained, gesturing to a tall, crystalline being whose body sparkled in the light. The Vex found their silicon-based biology indible, but harvested their worlds for minerals. The Coral representative spoke, voice resonating like wind chimes. We hid our inner worlds behind sensor shields. We thought ourselves clever. Now we see there is another option, to fight back. Arwen continued, pointing to a short, stocky being with thick orange fur. The Brevik were once great warriors, but the Vex attacked with biological weapons before any true battle could be fought. They poisoned our worlds, growled the Brevik. Made our children sick. We have medicines and knowledge of Vex biology that may help your cause. One by one, Arwen introduced the others. The aquatic Marin, experts in stealth technology. The gas giant dwelling Thol, with their mastery of gravity manipulation. The hive-minded Orlan, whose collective intelligence could process battlefield data faster than any computer, and the ancient Vesteri, who had been fighting a slow retreat against the Vex for generations. When the introductions finished, Admiral Reeves stood. The United Earth Council has authorized me to form alliances with any species willing to stand against the Vex. Each of you brings unique abilities and knowledge. Together, we can stop their expansion. The Vesteri Elder, a small being with silver skin and large, wise eyes, spoke slowly. For 200 years, we have watched the Vex consume world after world. We have data on all their conquered territories, their fleet movements, their supply lines. And we, hummed the Orlan Collective, their 6 representatives speaking in perfect unison, can coordinate our forces with efficiency no single mind could achieve. Thorne saw something powerful happening. Species that had been fighting alone, often in secret, suddenly realizing they were not isolated. Humanity had provided something none of them had: hope. The Vex believe compassion is weakness, Thorne said. They see cooperation as a flaw to exploit. Let's prove them wrong. As the meeting continued, strategies began to form. The Cordal would share their cloaking technology with human scout ships. The Brevik would help develop weapons specifically effective against Vex biology. The Marin would train human crews in their stealth tactics. The Thul would modify their gravity weapons for human carriers. On the Prometheus, Admiral Reeves reviewed the battle plans with her staff. The Vex have numbers, but they've never faced a coordinated opposition. Their tactics rely on overwhelming isolated enemies one at a time. Our scouts report the Vex Grand Armada is gathering at these coordinates, said her intelligence officer, highlighting a star system 3 jumps away. Over 600 ships. Reeves studied the display. More than our war fleet, even with our new allies. But we have advantages they don't understand, her tactical officer pointed out. Human endurance exceeds Vex capabilities by over 300%. Our ships can sustain damage that would cripple theirs. And now we have allies with specialized knowledge of Vex weaknesses. Reeves nodded. Begin distributing the Alliance technologies to our ships. Focus on our strengths, endurance, adaptability, and now, cooperation. Back on the Lumi homeworld, Captain Thorne worked with Arwen to organize planetary defenses. The once peaceful Lumi were learning to fight, with humans teaching them basic combat techniques adapted to their lighter gravity. Your people learn quickly, Thorne observed as he watched Lumi soldiers practicing with defensive weapons. "We have strong motivation," Arwen replied. "For generations, we believed peace was the only path. Now we understand that sometimes one must fight to protect peace." As they watched the training, Thorn's communication device beeped. A message from Admiral Reeves. "Vex fleet is on the move. Estimated arrival: 72 hours. Coalition forces are assembling. Return to the Valiant." Thorn turned to Arwen. "It's time." Across 7 star systems, the newly formed coalition prepared for battle. Human warships integrated alien technologies. Alien vessels welcomed human tactical officers. For the first time, the Vex would face a united opposition. In his command ship at the center of the Grand Armada, the Vex Supreme War Leader received the latest intelligence reports with mounting concern. "The prey species are cooperating?" he asked in disbelief. "Yes, Supreme One," replied his intelligence director. "The humans have formed a coalition. They are sharing technology, coordinating defenses." "Impossible. Different species cannot work together effectively. It defies natural law." "Nevertheless, it is happening. The Deathworlders have changed everything." The Supreme War Leader's mandibles clicked in agitation. "Then we will destroy them first. The humans must be eliminated before this coalition grows stronger." What the Vex couldn't grasp was already their greatest weakness: the inability to understand that diverse species working together could be stronger than any single empire. As the Grand Armada moved toward the Lumi system, they remained confident in their superiority, blind to the new reality forming against them. The coalition was ready. The final battle was about to begin. Space around Proxima Ridge blazed with weapons fire. The full might of the human war fleet faced the Vex Grand Armada in the largest battle the galaxy had ever witnessed. Hundreds of ships on each side exchanged devastating blows across the starlit void. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Admiral Reeves watched the tactical display with intense focus. The coalition forces had drawn the Vex into this carefully chosen battleground, an asteroid field that gave the more maneuverable human ships an advantage. "Status report," she ordered. "Coalition forces holding position." Her tactical officer responded. "The Coral stealth ships are in place. Brevik bioweapons ready. Full gravity disruptors online." Reeves nodded. "Begin Phase 2. Throughout the battle zone, human ships suddenly changed formation. They appeared to be retreating, breaking into smaller groups. The Vex, seeing what looked like weakness, pressed forward eagerly. "The Deathworlders flee," exclaimed the Vex Supreme War Leader. "Push forward. Show no mercy." What the Vex didn't realize was that this was exactly what the coalition had planned. As the Vex ships moved deeper into the asteroid field, pursuing what they thought were easy targets, the trap was sprung. Hidden Coral ships decloaked behind the Vex fleet. Brevik vessels launched specialized weapons that targeted Vex life support systems. Full gravity weapons activated, creating distortion fields that slowed the massive Vex warships. And the human vessels, far from retreating, had simply regrouped for a coordinated attack. "Now," ordered Admiral Reeves. From multiple directions, the coalition forces struck. Human warships, built to withstand Earth's punishing conditions, absorbed Vex fire that would have destroyed any other vessels. The Orlan hive mind coordinated the attack with perfect precision, allowing each species to deploy their strengths at the optimal moment. Captain Thorn, commanding the repaired Valiant, led a strike team of smaller vessels through the heart of the Vex formation. His task was the most dangerous: to break through to the Vex command ship. "Shields at 40%, reported his tactical officer as another blast rocked the ship. "Keep going," Thorn ordered. "We only get one shot at this." Aboard the massive Vex command vessel, the Supreme War Leader watched in growing horror as his carefully arranged formation fell apart. Coalition ships seemed to be everywhere, striking from impossible angles, coordinating in ways he couldn't predict. "How are they doing this?" he demanded. "No mixed species force should fight so effectively." His sensor officer's reply was cut short as the ship shuddered violently. Alarms blared throughout the command center. "Human vessels approaching," shouted his tactical officer. "They've broken through our defenses." The Supreme War Leader clicked his battle mandibles in fury. Impossible. Outside, the Valiant led the strike team to their target. The specialized weapons provided by their alien allies had created a gap in the Vex defenses. "All ships, focus fire on their command center," ordered Thorn. The combined firepower of 20 human vessels struck the Vex command ship. Its shields flickered and failed. Secondary explosions rippled across its surface. On the Prometheus, Admiral Reeves watched as the tide of battle shifted decisively. "The Vex command ship is crippled," reported her tactical officer. "Their fleet formation is breaking down." Reeves opened a channel to all coalition forces. "Press the advantage. Don't let them regroup." Across the battlefield, the momentum had clearly shifted. Without central coordination, the Vex ships began to fight individually, exactly what they had always done to their victims. But against a unified force fighting as one, they were outmatched. On the damaged Vex command ship, the Supreme War Leader faced the unthinkable: defeat. "Prepare the surrender signal," he ordered, mandibles clicking in shame. Before his officers could comply, the ship rocked with another devastating hit. Emergency lights flickered. Systems failed throughout the vessel. "Receiving transmission from the humans," reported his communications officer. The Supreme War Leader looked up to see Admiral Reeves' face on the main screen. "This is the end of your conquest," she said firmly. "Your fleet is defeated. Your command structure is broken. Surrender now, and we will spare your remaining ships." For the first time in the history of the Vex Dominion, a Supreme War Leader faced total defeat. He had no choice. We surrender," he clicked, the words foreign and bitter. 3 days later, representatives from all coalition species gathered on the Lumi homeworld to negotiate peace terms with the defeated Vex. The terms were strict but fair. The Vex would withdraw from all conquered territories. They would pay reparations to the species they had harmed, and they would never again engage in harvesting other intelligent beings. As Captain Thorn stood with Arwen, watching the Vex representative sign the treaty, he reflected on how much had changed in such a short time. "A simple distress call," he said quietly. "That's all it took to change the course of galactic history." Arwen nodded. "Our ancient texts spoke of a prophecy, that one day, guardian beings from a world of fire and stone would unite the stars against darkness. We thought it was just a story." "Maybe all stories have some truth," Thorn replied. As the ceremony concluded, Admiral Reeves announced the formation of the Galactic Council, a permanent alliance of all coalition species, with humanity as a founding member. Its purpose: to ensure that no species would ever again face threats like the Vex alone. The call for help had brought the Deathworlder war fleet, and in doing so, it had created something even more powerful: a united galaxy where strength and compassion existed side by side.